the forest that never sleeps. It was a part of the woods nobody spoke about. Hidden deep in a corner of Hollow Pine Forest, this stretch of forest was avoided, marked by locals with crude warnings and ribbons tied to branches. People called it the forest that never sleeps, an eerie, almost poetic name that belied a deeper, unspoken fear. I had heard all the rumors, the tales of people going in and not coming out. Stories of eerie lights and whispers in the trees. But I had grown up in Hollow Pine, heard the stories since I was a child, and I'd never seen anything unusual. It was just another part of the forest to me, one I was determined to explore. So, one evening just before dusk, I gathered my backpack, grabbed my flashlight, and ventured down the path. I wasn't naive. I told myself I'd go only a short way in, just to get a taste, just to see what was there. But as I walked, a strange calm washed over me. The air was heavy, the trees impossibly tall, their branches arching over the narrow path like silent sentinels. The deeper I went, the quieter it became. Even the usual forest sounds, chirping crickets, distant owl calls, the rustling of leaves, faded, leaving an eerie silence. About a mile in, the path split in two directions. The right path was marked with bright orange ribbons, a warning from those who'd come before. The left path was unmarked, seemingly untouched. I hesitated, glancing down each trail, feeling the weight of the decision pressing on me. My curiosity won out, and I took the unmarked path. Almost immediately, I felt as though I was being watched. I told myself it was nerves, the product of too many ghost stories. But the feeling persisted, growing stronger with each step. Shadows seemed to move just out of sight, slipping behind tree trunks and vanishing when I looked. The air felt thick, heavy, like I was breathing in a strange, damp fog. As I continued, I noticed something odd. The trees seemed closer together, their trunks twisted, their branches clawing toward each other like outstretched fingers. Their bark was dark, almost black, and when I reached out to touch one, it felt damp, almost like skin. A shiver ran through me, and I drew back my hand, wiping it on my jeans. I should have turned back right then, but something in me, something almost outside myself, urged me to keep going. A whisper, faint but insistent, drifted through the air. "Come, just a little further." I whipped around, searching for the source of the voice, but I was alone. At least, I thought I was. A cold unease settled over me as I realized I couldn't see the path behind me anymore. The forest had closed in, swallowing up the way I'd come. Panic flared in my chest, but I forced myself to breathe, to focus. I pulled out my flashlight and switched it on, the beam cutting through the thickening shadows. Ahead of me, something glimmered faintly, a soft, bluish glow, hovering in the darkness. The light was beautiful, almost hypnotic, and without thinking, I found myself walking toward it. As I got closer, I realized the light was coming from a figure standing in the middle of a small clearing. A woman, draped in a thin, white dress that fluttered around her like mist. Her hair was long, falling over her face, obscuring her features. Her hands hung limply at her sides, fingers curled slightly, as if beckoning. "Hello?" My voice sounded strange, swallowed up by the quiet. She didn't respond, didn't move, just stood there, radiating that ghostly blue light. I took a step forward, the ground soft and damp beneath my feet. Another step, and I could make out her features more clearly. Her skin was impossibly pale, almost translucent, her eyes wide and dark, staring past me as though looking at something I couldn't see. And then she turned, gliding further into the forest, the light fading as she moved deeper into the trees. "Wait!" I called, though I didn't know why. Every instinct screamed at me to turn back, to leave, but I couldn't shake the pull, the sense that I had to follow her. As I stumbled after her, the forest around me grew darker, more twisted. The trees looked ancient, warped, their trunks cracked and hollow. The air was thick with a strange, sickly sweet smell, like decaying flowers. Suddenly, I lost sight of the woman. The light faded, leaving me in darkness. I stood there, heart racing, flashlight in hand. I swept the beam around, trying to find her, but there was nothing but trees, stretching endlessly in every direction. I turned to go back the way I'd come, but the path was gone. The forest had rearranged itself, closing in around me like a trap. And then I heard it, a soft, scraping sound, like something dragging across the forest floor. I whipped around, shining my flashlight in every direction, but the sound was everywhere, closing in. A whisper drifted through the trees, a soft, haunting voice that sent chills down my spine. "You shouldn't have come here." My heart pounded as I tried to make sense of the voice, but it was layered, as though multiple voices were speaking at once, all blending together into a sick, mocking symphony. The scraping grew louder, closer, until I could make out its source. Something was crawling toward me, just at the edge of the flashlight's beam. It looked like a hand, pale and skeletal, dragging itself forward, followed by another, and another. Figures began to emerge from the shadows, twisted shapes with hollow eyes, their limbs bending at impossible angles. They crawled, dragging themselves across the forest floor, their mouths opening in silent screams. I stumbled back, nearly tripping as I turned to run, but there was nowhere to go. The figures were all around me, closing in, their hollow eyes fixed on me with a hunger I couldn't comprehend. And then, in the middle of them, I saw her again, the woman in white, her face twisted into a cold, empty smile. "You're one of us now," she whispered, her voice soft, final. The figures reached out, their hands gripping my arms, my legs, pulling me down into the cold, damp earth. I struggled, tried to scream, but the forest swallowed my voice, muffling it, as if the trees themselves were watching, waiting. The last thing I saw was the woman's face, hovering above me, her hollow eyes filling my vision as the darkness closed in. And then, silence. The next morning, the townsfolk found my flashlight lying in the middle of the trail, flickering weakly. They searched for me, combed every inch of the forest, but there was no trace. Some say the forest claimed me, that I'd become part of it, just another shadow drifting through the trees. And on quiet nights, when the wind is still, they say you can hear whispers coming from that part of the woods, soft, pleading voices, calling out for help. But no one dares to answer. Thanks for watching. For more, please like and subscribe.